Rachel?
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. At this time, I'll call to order the regularly scheduled committee meeting for the Village of Midlothian, Wednesday, December 7th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Roll call, please. Clerk Moskowitz.
Trustee Burbette?
Here.
Trustee Caveney? Trustee Crowley?
Here.
Trustee Hilly?
Here.
Trustee Johnson?
Here.
Trustee Killily?
Here.
Trustee Caveney?
Here.
Mayor LaRue?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, sir. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Trustee Caveney back from her extended vacation.
Thank you, Mayor.
Full of, all right. At this time, I'll move on to public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Jean.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I want to thank the volunteers that came out and helped us decorate. We're still doing some little minor stuff here and there, so you'll still see some little things happening. I want to remind everyone that Dylan has his food drive going on, and his goal is 20,000 pounds. So let's make that happen. We all know and like Dylan, at least I do. And what else? I had one more thing, but, oh well. So that's that. Thank you.
Thank you. The green looked beautiful, Jean. That wreath is outstanding. It's amazing. So thank you.
Thanks to, well, Jason's not here, but thanks to Jason that got over there.
Yeah.
Because we don't get the vehicle running yet.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. John?
Just want to tell street department, thanks for coming out and filling out most of our roads that we have, and to stay on it for the last couple of days. It was needed then.
Thanks. I'll let Joe know. You let Joe know. Anyone else? All right, then I'll close. Oh. I will not close the floor. Chris?
So, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Hi, Chris.
What's the time? Half hour?
3 minutes, Chris. 3 minutes.
Trustee Caveney.
Joking.
So, the reason I'm here tonight is because of my property on 147 in Colmar at Natalie Creek. It continues to flood, despite the flood mitigation work that's been completed with Natalie Creek Flood Project. The most recent flooding, August 7th, I'm probably sure a lot of people saw that. The water accumulated in the offices this time, first time it's ever happened. We had anywhere between a half inch and 3/4 of an inch. In the State Farm office, probably 70% of the office. First time that's ever happened. We also had seepage into the Suite 2, Dr. Lisa's office. So I don't think it's actually resolved on Colmar Avenue. I know it's doing a lot better on the rest of the creek, the rest of the residents. But what I found out just recently, unfortunately, just recently, and it's kind of time sensitive. MWR is currently accepting voluntary flood control property acquisition requests, but it ends on January 13th. I was a little concerned that this was only for residential property. Just tonight, there was a webinar that my wife was on, a live webinar where she could ask questions. And I think his name is Richard Fisher. He's a civil engineer with WNDR.
Yep.
They accept business and commercial properties. And if it's under a certain amount, there is zero to cost of benefit. They waive that. So it's an opportunity for the village to be able to take possession of my property, and it's almost a half an acre. To put a retention area that looks like that. And not what we've seen MWRD do before. I know there's been a lot of complaints down here, Patrick. I know they can do better. I know the village can do better. Something that would look very nice on 147th Street It would also alleviate the flooding problems on Colmar. I happen to be able to go out tonight and do some measurements. That's the kind of guy I am. I don't deal with computers. Shovels and rulers is my best method. I had talked to Joe Sperry earlier about if they found any kind of restrictions on the creek, and Ty today, who was over there looking for a gas main on the creek. They found the gas main 6 feet down next to the creek, and the gas main runs 3 feet under the creek, right at the bridge on 147th Street. They had to find that because MWRD is coming out to remove some sediment around that bridge. Looks to me like the sediment is going to be probably 3 or 4, maybe 500 cubic feet. It's not a lot. But when I measured the bridge on Colmar, the Colmar Bridge is 17 feet wide and 40 inches high. All the bridges that have been put in with this Navin Creek project are 5 feet high. So if you want to know my personal opinion, where the restriction is, it's the Colmar Bridge, it's the 147th Street Bridge. I have zero confidence that that bridge is ever going to be replaced. It's just, I don't think, it's going to be too expensive at this point in time. Besides that, 147th Street would be half shut down for 6 months. That's not going to happen. The other restriction is on the other side of the retention area, Boston, I think it is. That's a smaller bridge. It starts out big, but then it gets smaller. But I think that was designed that way to hold the water in, to not let the outflow get too big like Pulaski. So it backs up into that retention area, which it hasn't been backing up into that retention area too good. But the opportunity that's time sensitive for this buyout would benefit Midlothian, and it would benefit people on Colmar. And it would probably also benefit people upstream. This last rain event we had, I got a measurement from a resident that said it was almost 2.5 inches. MWRD said it was 3. This was designed for a 25-year flood inches, 7 inches. That leads me to believe Colmar problem's not going to be fixed. The offices are going to continue to flood, and even worse, this was the highest water level I had ever seen. I've got videos that both tenants sent me the day it happened. The day it happened, I was not expecting this kind of water. They sent me, they were both in the office on Saturday doing backup work. They opened the door and they almost died. They hit their send buttons and I got all these pictures. So all I'm saying, I'm going to give this folder with all kinds of pictures and measurements. I even did a cost estimate of what it would cost if I simply raised the floor in the offices so the offices didn't flood. Wow. Cost to benefit ratio, not going to happen. I'm presently going to take this property off the market because I would never, ever sell this property to somebody else to have to deal with this. And the best option is to take up this acquisition. So give this file to Kathy. She can take a look at it. If you need to contact me about any details whatsoever, call me.
Okay.
And we can discuss all that.
I'm curious, during the webinar, you had mentioned that, you had mentioned that the engineer for MWRD mentioned that there was no cost involved? Restate that again, there was no
Yeah,
cost if it was under a certain dollar
If
amount?
it's under a certain dollar amount, they waive that.
What was the dollar amount, do you know?
$300,000. And this building is going to appraise for much less than that.
So if the,
Because it's in a major flood hazard though, not just a flood plain, but a flood hazard.
it's a special flood hazard area.
Which means if I got a chance to talk to the building department, they would basically tell me they can't add on to this building.
Is it in a floodway?
Both.
Oh, it is in the flood.
If there's 6, it's in all 6.
Okay, so it's in a floodway.
Yeah.
Okay, and so if the value of the building is under $300,000, then there's no cost to who? No cost to the village, no
the
cost
village
to
has
you?
to pay for
Now,
it.
no, the village is gonna have to pay for 2 appraisals. I have one that was done in 2021, a little over a year ago, if they accept that.
They probably won't, they probably need to be current appraisals.
Well, I don't know how current has to be, yes, probably.
6 months, probably.
And then the village is responsible for demo and building. But I think you can get grants for that from the land bank. That's not my field of expertise.
So then who pays
I
you
also
for the,
think
who
that
pays you for the
SSA
property? MWRD?
village.
MWRD pays me for the property, acquires it, and then turns the property over to the village.
Okay.
And if you pulled into that parking lot when there's no cars in there, and looked at the size of the parking lot without that building, that's a pretty big detention area. And if it was designed right, it would be pretty, like that picture. A lot of people thought that picture was what they were gonna get on the creek, and they didn't end up getting that picture.
No, believe me, I'm totally aware, we're all totally aware of what they got on that creek, and that's not what they were supposed to get. Exactly. It's not what was anticipated, so I agree.
We'll have to look into that, but they did notice the restriction at the Kilpatrick Bridge.
Yeah.
Kilpatrick.
Kilpatrick?
So they were supposed to address that.
No, no, no. 147 the Comar.
Kilborn.
They noticed it at the Kilpatrick one. You said it was
Really?
only 4 feet? It should be more than 4 feet.
No, he was talking about by his
I know, but
building.
he's talking about the bridge underneath
Yeah.
147.
Yeah,
Right. After that, Joe Sperry got them out the right away, and they
Yeah.
believe they noticed the restriction
at Kilpatrick also?
which backed it into Colmar, backed it up into Colmar. So they were supposed to get to that this year or
Well,
in the
they're
spring.
coming out tomorrow to do the sediment removal.
The small stream team
Right.
was supposed to,
At the bridge under 147.
right.
They're supposed to also take care of it at the Kilpatrick Bridge, because that's where they think they saw the restriction. I'm not disagreeing with you. The bridge under 147 should have been part of the project, but it was already $9 million, and they weren't gonna,
Right.
it wasn't going to add years of, wasn't gonna go much more than a 25-year flood mitigation project, if they did that bridge.
The other concern I have is even if they were to enlarge that bridge on 147th Street, I'm still a little skeptical about if the outflow on Pulaski could handle that increase. I have noticed an increase in flow in that creek.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much faster. I've also looked at settling in the back of the State Farm office,
Mhm.
where the sidewalk is cracked and actually sunk in 4 inches. I think that has a lot to do with the amount of water that's sitting in that general area, plus the flow, the intensity of the flow now. It's changed. Whenever you do something with water on a stream or a river, you do something here, it's going to do something down there. And it's like.
All right.
Time sense.
All right.
Okay. Thanks,
and
Chris.
It's a great opportunity.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else? All right, now I'll close the floor to public comment. Move on to trustee business, trustee Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple items on my agenda tonight. The first one is that I am requesting approval for the carryover of vacation days for front office staff person Bonnie Nyland. She has written a letter to her supervisors, Jackie Harris, who then forwarded it to me. She has 5 days to carry over. She's requesting that she be able to take her 5 days through the end of March, which would be the first quarter. I'm going to agree with that because based on the way the current policy reads, it reads that they have to do it during their anniversary month. Bonnie's anniversary month is January 22nd. So I think it would be reasonable to adjust that policy to say it has to be taken within the first quarter of the next year. It's also in the same budget year, so we're not incurring any additional expenses because we're in a new fiscal year. So I provided the letter, I've provided my justification. I'd like to make a motion to approve carryover of 5 vacation days.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? I would just like to say, I mean, we need to encourage our employees to take their vacation within their calendar year, and it's for their benefit, and I'm not opposed to this, but I just
Right.
need to do a better job of.
And we've sat down and had conversations, and she's well aware that this has to be taken by the end of March of 2023.
As long as it doesn't go into the next fiscal year, I think it's still in the same budget year, so.
And I'll have a conversation with her that, again, this is something we don't want to happen year after year.
Right.
And that we want them to take their vacation to have
It's for their health.
work-life balance for them.
Okay. Anyone else? Roll call.
Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Caveney?
Aye.
Trustee Burbatt?
Aye.
Trustee Crawley?
Aye.
Trustee Hilly?
Aye.
Trustee Killily?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And before we move, I forgot to mention that Trustee Killily is joining the meeting by phone this evening.
So related to this item up for discussion is, I'd like to get a sense of whether or not the board would be willing to entertain an adjustment to the policy. So instead of saying, taking it by your anniversary date, that we say that you take it by the first quarter of the next year. So that it's fair and equitable to somebody like Bonnie, whose anniversary is in January.
Or we could just say by the end of the fiscal year. I mean, it's, you know,
Okay.
I mean, that way everybody's covered, whoever has, you know, whether you're January, February, March, and we don't exceed the next year. We don't go into May. Yes, May, right?
Well,
Yes.
the thing of it is that everyone's vacation gets added to their vacation bank on their anniversary date. So I kind of am in agreement with Kathy that we stick with the first quarter, because once you get beyond the first quarter, then you have people starting to plan their vacations for April, May, June, so,
It doesn't matter to me
Yeah.
either way.
so,
First quarter.
First quarter, so do
Yeah.
I make a motion to modify the policy?
Not right now, you have to,
Or do I bring it
you
back
have to
next
get
week?
that back on, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Move 2
Kathy,
weeks.
we have a couple that we have to modify, so maybe we can do them all at the same
Okay,
time.
that's fine.
That can wait till next committee.
Yeah, that's fine. The second item I have is, as a result of us passing the employee handbook, it was prudent to also have a discussion about employees signing the acknowledgement of receipt and review of the employee handbook. Yesterday, I sent a policy acknowledgement, or I'm sorry, a handbook acknowledgement form to the board for their review and for any comment. I've heard back from 2. I also have the original one reviewed by Attorney Valadez, who said it was appropriate that we could use this. I've also provided today, this afternoon, a modified version of that, and the only thing that's changed is really the first 2 sentences, where before we said that we expected them to read it and receive the copy and read it, and from feedback I heard, the language that's highlighted in yellow, which would be, I acknowledge that I'm aware of the existence of the Village of Midlothian's Employee Handbook, which is located on the Village Commons Drive, and that I have electronic access to the handbook. It is my responsibility to understand the content of the handbook, and that I will comply with all policies set forth therein and any revisions thereafter. So my question is, with this suggested language, is this an acceptable statement to make within the employee acknowledgement? What we're going to do is we're going to send it to all employees through email and ask them then to respond to an email saying, I'm acknowledging receipt of this email, and I understand I need to go and read the handbook. And then they'll send it back, so this way we have it basically date, time stamped, and because they're sending it back through their email, that is their signature. And this way, we're not chasing paper down, we're not chasing signatures down, and it will be a more efficient way to monitor everyone's acknowledgement of it. Also, this way, because it's electronic, I think as you suggested, it would be, a live version would be in a closed drive, only acceptable, only available to us. where the employees would have it as a PDF on the common drive.
Right.
And as Sandy said, as we make modification to these
That'll be
policies,
updated.
we can update it, put it in the common drive, send out an email. Employees can go, they can look at the new policy, so this way we're not wasting time and money on paper, because
Right.
it's a 75-page document.
Right.
When Trustee Crowley said it's a big document, I rethought about that, and it makes sense. So, does anybody have any comments for the revised language to the employee acknowledgement?
The only thing I was thinking, Kathy, after we talked, the only thing I would say is that I love the letter, I think it's a good idea, but I know the mayor, under his business, is talking about the new the HR company to come in. This might be something good for them to
Okay.
roll out
Sure.
and, kind of start the process of
Right.
making sure we have accurate files and things like
And
that.
I thought
So-
that same thing too. I thought
That was my
we're
own- that was
we're
my
on
only
the
other
same-
comment.
We're on the same page.
Yeah.
So for your consideration, I can pull it back until we hire an HR company and then talk to them to say, what's the best practice for something.
Right. But in the meantime, can we ask our department heads, can we provide it to the department heads and ask the department heads to forward it on to their employees so that they have it? I mean, we passed this,
We're not talking about policies, we're talking about the acknowledgement of the book.
no, I know, but I'm just saying, I don't know that all of our employees got the book. The
Nope.
board approved it.
Nobody's gotten it.
Right, the board approved it like 2 weeks ago, so I just think it's a good idea that we roll it out.
Sure.
We can have our new HR company handle the acknowledgement portion of it.
If we could just have it scanned onto the Commons drive, then we can send a link to everybody on the thing. We don't,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
that's it.
I'll work with Jackie and
Yeah,
ask her to make that
And,
happen.
and one thing too, I think it's important, I don't remember on the version that we approved if there is a header or a footer on the document that says that, this, version 1 approved at board meeting, blah, blah date. So,
On the cover, it has the date that it was.
It does,
approved.
okay.
And I believe there's a footer in there to say it was approved as of November.
okay, and then that will get updated every time we make changes. Okay.
You go with this?
Yes, and I would just affirm trustee Cavaney's position that each day that goes by that we don't have the handbook, it's another day that we are in that limbo area in terms of what the policy is.
Right, I think that we need to roll out the handbook right away. It needs to go out to everybody, and we can worry about the acknowledgement
Right.
letter later.
So hopefully my goal would be within the week that all employees will get access through a link or through an attachment through an email. And then we'll work with the HR company if we choose to hire them to create an appropriate acknowledgement so all employees will sign it.
Perfect.
And then the last thing, just to give you some information, is in discussions with the mayor and with Jackie Harris, we have made the decision that we would like to bring the village stickers back in-house instead of using Third Millennium. Jackie has reached out to Third Millennium, and we are required to send a letter to them to acknowledge that we're no longer going to use their services as of, our contract ends June 8th. So, Mayor, if it's appropriate, I'm asking Jackie to write a letter to end our relationship and that we sign it.
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll probably be bringing that up in the next 2 weeks. And that's all I have.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Trustee Burback.
Nothing this evening.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Hilly.
I had two things. Superintendent Sperry is requesting the approval to purchase a new jackhammer attachment for the new excavator. Recently, we had the old model broke and there's no parts available to fix it. It'll be used with our John Deere backhoe and the new excavator that's on its way. Well, this isn't a budgeted item, but he did forego purchasing a new skid steer this year, which was $42,000. The new jackhammer, if we go through Sourcewell and add it to the excavator, would be $19,100. Anybody have any questions, concerns? No?
Don't come back before the end of the fiscal year and ask for that
Skid steer.
It's a Bobcat. Yeah,
Oh.
skid steer is a Bobcat.
Can you just put Bobcat? Everyone knows Bobcat.
Is it clear?
In the business, they call it a skid steer. If you said Bobcat, he would.
Bobcat's a brand.
Yeah.
Listen to that with the lingo. Wow.
I'm just saying.
Kleenex versus tissue.
Exactly. If nobody has any issues with that, I'd be asking for for it to be included on the consent agenda, not to exceed $19,100.
I'll make the motion.
It's not
No.
a motion.
Oh,
Next
sorry.
week.
Next week.
Just next week. Also, Superintendent Sperry and Assistant Superintendent Swanson have asked to have, Superintendent Sperry has 6 unused vacation days they'd like to carry over to be taken prior to March 31st, and Assistant Superintendent Swanson has 5. They asked if, they're asking for approval to have those days carry over to be used prior to March 31st. We had this discussion with Trustee Johnson's, so, I mean,
If you're making a motion, I'll second.
all right, I'm gonna make the motion.
On for approval.
It's not-
It's not for approval? Okay,
Oh,
can we
it's
put it
not?
on for
No.
consent agenda for next week then?
And might as well, just a heads up, Chief Hot Wagner will be asking for, I believe, 5 days as well, coming up soon. Chief, how about you? Okay.
So Jack, not,
Please take those days.
Yes.
so not to be nitpicky, but if Joe has 6 and our policy is 5, can he squeeze in a vacation day between now and the end of the year? I don't have a problem carry over 6,
I
but the
can-
policy says 5.
I will send them, yeah. See,
See if we can get that extra day used sometime.
Okay.
End of the year.
I will do that right now.
Anything else tonight?
No, sir, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Caveney.
I don't have anything this evening, Mayor,
You know what?
except to wish you all aloha.
I noticed my email was much lighter the last 2 weeks.
I know.
Absolutely. I was on vacation.
Well, welcome back. We're glad
Thank
to have
you.
you back.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Killelea.
Thank you, Mayor. Is our risk insurance broker, Patrick Sheehan, in the audience?
No.
No.
Was he gonna be here today?
Okay. Well, let's see if I can carry the ball on this one. Okay. So, we have for approval our risk insurance to approve the net premium. Our broker from Alliance did give us the option of self-insuring part of the workman's comp cost. The workman's comp cost was $512,000. And he has given us the option, here, let me pull this up again, which I have not done. Yes, the workman's comp was $512,631. We could self-insure the first $100,000 of a claim, and that would bring our premium down to to reduce our workman's comp premium down to $285,109, saving $227,522. Now, there is no cap on the first 100,000. If we happen to have multiple claims, we would take $100,000 of each claim, not $100,000 total. Based on our past history, we had 2 bad years. One bad year was $257,000. The other bad year was $313,000. Based on our history from 2012, we would have about an 80% chance of being successful of saving some money and a 20% chance of not being successful. There are lots of governmental entities, municipalities, and school districts who do some self-insurance on their risk insurance or health insurance. We don't, but we could. So the broker did recommend this. We are going to restart the safety committee again. We had the safety committee going to, that would meet, I believe, monthly. And that was to promote safe practices on the part of our workers in the village. And it did seem to reduce claims for a number of years, but because we didn't have any big claims, we discontinued the safety committee, and, the two big claims did happen, in 2020 and 2022. So, I guess the bottom line is that, I throw back to the board for discussion to see if they're interested in possibly taking advantage of that, option, or they'd like to pass on it. What is there's any discussion from the board on self-insurance?
So I went through it all, Don, and I talked to Pat too, and I'm kind of in agreement. Even on the 2 bad years, if you average what we would have spent, it's still over 11 years would have been a savings. So yeah, it's a 20% chance that it could be above that. But if you average the savings, if you look at what the excess premium was for those 11 years versus what we would have paid extra for those 2, we still would have been way ahead of the game.
So you're recommending self-insurance?
I mean, that's what our insurance company is recommending, and just for the workers' comp portion. And it's not real, and I mean, when I heard self-insurance, I got a little nervous because I thought, oh boy, now we got to pay for everything.
It's tricky to
Well, it's
understand.
not. You still have, it's just up to 100,000.
Right.
Then the
Means that you
insurance kicks
absorb-
in. It's almost,
you absorb some of the liability.
yes,
plan.
it's a high deductible plan is
Right.
what it is. And it's not a, because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, wait a second, what if there's something happens? But as they explained it to me, and as I read, and I called a friend of mine whose municipality does self-insure for workers' comp. They do a historical plan like this every year, and they've been doing it since 2000, I believe, and they're $1 million ahead of the game collectively
In premiums,
in premiums.
savings, premium savings.
Some years they've had bad, he said, and the key to that is making sure what your excess premium savings is, you put into an account, and you make sure you use that, and if you don't need it, then at the end of the, you have to pay up to your 100,000. So if our deductible was 50, now we have to pay up to 100, and then the insurance kicks in.
So I'm looking at these numbers, and basically, if we have two or less workman comp claims, then we're ahead of the game. If we have 3 or more,
Well,
then-
no,
No, because they could be under $100,000.
Right, they could be under
Could be
100.
smaller claims.
they could be smaller claims.
Oh, we have to absorb up to the first
You would have to have
100,000.
2 that go at least
Then-
100,000.
Okay. That would be our deductible, so to speak.
Right, we'd have to, in order for us.
Is it reasonable that we would ever have a work comp claim
So-
that's under $100,000?
So think about
Sure,
it this
sure.
way, Cass.
Okay.
We would have to, in order to meet the premium that they want to charge us now, for 2023, we would have to have over 512,000 in claims.
Okay.
That's where, where we would have, if we stuck with the premium, we would have to have over 512,000
Okay.
in claims. And we've only hit that mark twice in 11 years.
Okay.
Once was 599,000 and once was 542,000.
Okay.
Right, Don?
Well, we've never
Out-of-pocket costs?
we've never hit 512,000. The 2 bad years that were 257 and 313.
No.
So-
Look at 2021-22, out-of-pocket costs, 599,102.
It's not on the sheet.
Well, that's an out-of-pocket cost. That's the out-of-pocket cost. Some of claims,
Right.
so.
Anything from this side of the
So
board?
bottom line again is it's $100,000 per claim though, not $100,000 total,
Right, per claim.
so, per claim, so.
Right.
I think because there's only been 2 years that have been, two years that, exceeded our potential savings that I think that I'm in favor of it too.
Oh, okay.
But if the board isn't, then that's it.
Well, I'm in favor of it, and seeing, if this is, another tool that we can use going forward to get the workers' comp claims down. And as I understood it and as I read it, Don, all of our other liability insurance stayed the same, correct? We did not have an increase?
No, it didn't have an increase. I think there was a slight adjustment, less,
Right, a little bit less, but nothing more.
a little bit less, about 7,000.
Right. Okay.
So it was good we audited it.
Yep.
That was excellent.
So Don, I have a question. So if we do it for 1 year, kind of doing the high deductible, and I'm very interested in that, let's say we cashed our chips in and we lost. Can we go back to the old way
Yes.
next year? Okay.
Yes, we can go with, it's year by year, so if we're successful, we want to keep on doing this, fine. If it didn't work out, and we want to go back to the guaranteed cost, we can do that too.
And the other question, Don, is based on what you said, so the safety committee, when would we institute that?
We're doing it in January.
In January? Okay.
Yes, ASAP.
Yeah, I was going to set it up for in January. We'll do it the same afternoon quarterly for the first year.
All right, you sold me. Anything else?
Okay, so, any other discussion?
No,
Okay.
that's it.
All right, so as I understand it, and Clerk Moskowitz, if you want to double check me on this, for 227, oh my goodness. Hang on 1 second, sorry. The savings on the premium would be 227,522. So if we subtract that from the proposal tonight, that leaves us with a total proposed premium of $970. Is that right,
No.
Pascal? You concur?
I get 751,806.
751,806?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the binding and the premium for general liability and workers' comp at the figure of 751,806?
Correct.
Okay.
I'll second.
Is there now is there any discussion? And just to be clear, we are going with IC. Alliant is the broker,
Yes.
Yes, Alliant is the broker.
and the insurance is through ICRMT.
Yes.
And, yes. And actually, just as a side note, the general liability, we've had some pretty good claims as part of general liability. And because an Alliance, basically, their insurance, by what they place with ICRMT, is about 50% of the total pool that ICRMT has. So we got a very good rate in general liability because of the pull of our broker, who they don't want to have them go anywhere because that's a big part of their pool. So we've got very lucky on that too. So we can take our lucky stars on that. But we're doing what we can do, and hopefully cost contain the workers' comp.
I don't know that it was luck, Don. I think making sure that, we hold them accountable and have our department heads look over things and make sure everything is accurate every year is the way to go.
And Sandy,
Right.
Don, to Sandy's point, can we ensure that the broker or whomever it is providing us with a monthly report on our workman's comp so that we're not 6 months down the line and realize we've blown through $1 million and had no idea about it as a board?
It will be a quarterly report.
And who will that report
It
go
will
to?
be a quarterly report.
It'll go to the
They
finance
would
department.
actually, if we want them to come out to the finance committee, we can do that too. It doesn't matter.
They also
Fine.
said that they would make sure that they started this process earlier next year in
I
September.
emphasize that too when I talk to them.
Thanks, Don.
Yeah, because our renewal is December 1st, right?
Yep.
Okay. Can I just, point of clarification, I'm looking at the attachment that was on Don's agenda on page 7, it shows that the insurance cost is $769,524. Is that the number that you just came up with, Alan?
No, I was going by what was
That was
here
last
today.
year.
That was last year's number. This should have been in your
On your
pile of papers.
So it's 760, okay, what number are we looking at then?
751,806. Yep.
Oh, my mistake. Okay, there it is. Thank you.
And for Gene's sake, ICRMT stands for,
Good question. Illinois casualty and something.
Counties,
It's,
counties risk.
County, yes, that's right.
Chief Delaney's got it under control. What was that, sir?
Illinois County's Risk Management Team.
thank you, sir. So we're going with Alliant as the broker and what he just said for the actual insurance. Any other discussion?
Yeah.
Oh, we need a second. Did we get a second?
We got a second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Killily,
Aye.
Trustee Caveney,
Aye.
Trustee Burbette,
Aye.
Trustee Crowley,
Aye.
Trustee Hilly,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything else tonight?
I just want to talk real quickly about the tax levy. We're going to, the board's going to approve the next tax levy for next year is going to be 4.999% increase. Midlothian is a home rule community, but we've chosen by statute to voluntarily comply with the Illinois property tax cap law. The consumer price index for this last year was 7.1%. And the tax cap law basically stipulates that we will levy the lower of 5% for the consumer price index. So this year we're going to levy 4.999%. On the website there will be an explanation of tax levies in general and our tax levy. So you can look at that. You can also, if you have any questions about it, you can ask trustee or the mayor. At the next meeting, during the public portion, you can also ask any questions about the tax levy before the board, or make any comments about it before the board acts on it. So everything's out there for it, and we think we save the taxpayer 2.1% by following the state property tax cap law. And that's all I have on that. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Mayor, or not, or if I covered it.
You pretty much covered it. Trustee Kennedy wants to speak first.
Would the use of a municipality's tax levy be included in the conversation that's going to be held at the public meeting?
We won't give,
Right.
there's not a public hearing on this because we're
No,
under 5%.
not public hearing.
No,
I'm
that's-
talking
that's
about the
just
meeting
for
that's going to be
appeals.
on the 13th.
This is for tax appeals.
So
Oh.
they're just going to be discussing tax
How
appeals.
people
Are they
can
going
appeal a
to,
tax.
so they're not going to explain how the tax bill is set up and what's what and how it gets calculated?
They might.
Okay.
We also have Yvonne Redmond, the new finance director. I don't know if she sent it to everybody, but she has a draft of a PowerPoint that she's been working on to explain it. We will also have a link to that on our monthly village emails and on our website. So it was pretty simple,
Okay.
explanatory.
So I think what Trustee Kelly, just to cap on that, the village has continued to abide by its own property tax cap ordinance. Throughout the years, the consumer price index has always been pretty low historically, and we've always kept the increase to that CPI. Again, as Trustee Kelly said, the CPI this year is 7.1% or 2%. So we're still sticking with our ordinance and going with the 4.99% increase. If the EAV, the equalized assessed value of the properties at Midlothian drops, they actually, even though we're raising it 4.99%, your village portion of your taxes could potentially go down. It all depends what the EAV and the multiplier comes out from the county, and I don't know what month they're gonna give that to us, Don, do you know?
I think
Usually it's in June or July, yeah.
we have it for last year, I don't,
It went down.
it went down for last year, but we didn't get it until like November 2nd, because they weren't putting it out, so we got it late this year, but next year they're saying they'll be back on schedule.
That's all I have. All right, that will be on the agenda for approval next week. Correct? All right. Anything else tonight?
And that is all, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Crowley.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple things tonight. First of all, I just want to remind people that if you're interested in having a copy of the new Village Constant Connect email, please go to our website and sign up for it. We've put links on Facebook to have people sign up. Our first newsletter that went out in November, I think we had 300 emails that we were sending it to. I'm happy to say that the December email went out to over 600. So I thought that was, that's very good. We're having a lot of people sign up individually. Businesses have also asked to be included, so I think it sounds like the residents and the community and the businesses do seem to like it. During this email, there was a survey. We'll leave it open for a few more days. Regarding our ARPA funds, we had talked about, I think, at our last meeting, majority of our ARPA funds are earmarked for water infrastructure projects, but the board, through the Finance Committee, has decided we'd like to try to also give something back, to use some of that money to let the residents, see some of the improvements, not just underground. We had four solid options on the last email. One was, would the residents like to see the village bring back a 60-40 split for sidewalk replacement, add more lighting to areas that have been identified as being low, not as highly lit as they should be. What were the other two? Holiday decorations and a small credit on the water bill. So we, so far with about 80 people responding, it's pretty much neck and neck between the sidewalk and the lighting, adding additional lighting in some of the areas. So I will be sending that information out. I'll give it probably another week, and then I'll send it out to the board. We'll be discussing it at finance. But my recommendation is going to be the money we earmark, since the numbers seem to be pretty close, is trying to put enough aside to do both programs. So I'll try to figure out if we could come up with a number, but it was 33% and 34% between the two programs. So hopefully we can have that on the agenda to move forward with. Last, I would like to remind everybody that on Friday and Saturday ends our Secret Santa and Toy Drive that is run by the Community Policing and Safety Committee. I have to say that every year, since we started increasing and adding, I say how humbled I am by this community. Right now, the police department looks like a toy store that has gone wild after the day after Thanksgiving. So you can't walk through it. There's a number of people we have to thank for that. Our businesses have been fantastic. This year we are sponsoring the most children we've ever sponsored in Midlothian schools. We are sponsoring 30 independent children through the Midlothian schools. That's not including the hundreds, and when I say hundreds, I mean hundreds of toys that we have that we will be sharing with our local churches for residents in that area. So we have received monetary donations. We have had families sponsor families. We have had, our committee has been, can't even say it. But that will wrap up this week. So thank you to everybody who's participated. And part of my committee is here, and I just don't know what we would do without you guys, all of you. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
That's all I have this evening, sir.
You a little choked up there?
Huh? No,
No, you're choked up.
Yes, you are.
I do not get choked up.
Yes, you do.
I have to deal with Dan.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Attorney Valdez.
Well, after two postponements, continuations by the court, tomorrow at 9:15 a.m., the federal court magistrate will issue, hopefully, its decision regarding Aunt Martha's fee petition. As you already know, Aunt Martha was requesting $350,000 in attorney's fees. It is our opinion that they are entitled to no more than 30, if that. And the second item is that the village negotiating team did have a session with the federal mediator regarding the firefighters' contract. This was just with the mediator and the village. Sometime in January, we're going to schedule a joint meeting with the mediator and the firefighters union, and hopefully we can make some progress. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. All right, under my business, I wanted to throw back on the agenda the discussion of bringing on Connor Gallagher as our Human Resources Services. Since our last discussion, I did talk to them. There was a question about the hidden fees, about having people, a representative here on site, and that's typically what they do. They will come on site, and they haven't had any issues with any other towns as far as added cost to what is in the proposal. I did speak to HR Solutions and Gulf HR, and no one could really come close to what Connor Gallagher was asking. And on top of that, Director Redmond did reach out to Connor Gallagher. We believe the cost is going to be around $50,000 a year. She spoke to 4 out of their 5 references. Everyone raved of their services, and she is recommending that we engage with Connor Gallagher to take on our human resources services. So is there any other discussion from the board?
Can I just ask a question? I did get a chance to just peruse this. Are they gonna, is all of their services gonna be online, or is it be phone? Will they have somebody come here sometimes?
Yes, all of that.
Okay.
They most everything these days is electronic or by phone or
Yeah, and I'm okay
portals.
with phone, I just don't want
Zoom.
Yeah, I just don't want people to be just only be able to communicate via email.
No.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
Zoom meetings,
Okay,
team meetings.
that's great, okay.
But they will come out on site as needed and with no added costs, so no hidden costs, I guess I should say. So. All right, then I'll ask to have that. I guess what I'll have to do is have the board authorize me to engage with Connor Gallagher. I don't know if I'm going to have the exact amount because we got to go through an employee assessment and all that.
Yes, the board could authorize you to engage in the contract within parameters of a ceiling.
Okay.
So do we have to put it on the consent agenda next week for you to do that, or
Yes.
a vote? Okay, yeah.
To understand? You understand that? Okay. All right, the next thing, we wanted to throw this back on the agenda. We talked about it before, through the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee is recommending to the board that we amend our water ordinance to remove the minimum water usage. We believe that's going to affect over 600 residents, saving on their water bills. It also gives everyone in town an opportunity to lower their water usage and their water bill. So,
And this would be for residents and businesses?
you took it out of the ordinance, so
It was just for residents.
it's just for
Just
residents.
for residents.
We can talk
Okay.
about businesses.
The reason I asked is because I read the ordinance and I don't remember seeing that there was a distinction between residents and businesses.
Did we ever?
Because I don't think there was a distinction with,
Right.
Yeah, so
With having
this
it, so-
doesn't, I mean, this is just talking about water bills, it's not talking about residential only, so
that
does,
applies to.
I read it that it applied to businesses as well.
so it should apply to both.
Yeah.
Nothing,
Okay.
nothing changed in terms of who it applies to.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to confirm it, that's all. So it's going to be.
So
from-
you would agree then if we remove it, it would also apply to businesses?
Does it apply to businesses
does.
now?
Did it apply,
Yeah.
did the minimum water usage apply before?
Yes. Okay, so then nothing in the new language would change that.
Okay. Great.
Anyone else? Then, Maria, I'd like that on the consent agenda next week to approve the removal of the minimum water usage charge on our water bill ordinance. And
We should probably do some sort of flyer to send it out to residents so that they all know what's going on and why their water bill is changing and how they can monitor it. So
And we'll craft some type of notification, because it also means the senior exemption,
they won't have to
they won't
register
have
anymore.
to register anymore. Yeah.
Right. If you get something, I'll send it out and let Princeton can ask.
All right, that's all I have tonight. Clerk Moskowitz?
I have nothing, sir.
All right, at this time, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn to closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of a specific employee of the public body.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, we're in closed session. There is no further business following closed session.